Good morning, Acadiana. Thank you for tuning in to Local News Live, a community service of AOC Community Media in partnership with The Advocate and, fortunately, in partnership with our volunteers. This morning we've got a special guest volunteer reader. Her name is Danon. Welcome, Danon. Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Matt, thank you.
Thank you so much for reading the news for us this morning. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. We're happy to help out.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you take it away and go and listen online with everybody else. Thanks again so much.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. It is exactly 9 a.m. on April 30th, 2020, our last day of April. Here we have the news today, and let's rock it. GOP lawmakers look to overturn order. Excuse me, I got to get my morning voice on. By Mark Ballard and Sam Carlin. As Governor John Bel Edwards traded plaudits with President Donald Trump at the White House over how each has handled the coronavirus, a partisan battle erupted back home with a group of GOP lawmakers working to build support for taking the unprecedented step of repealing the governor's public health emergency declaration. Incensed by an extension of the state's stay-at-home order until May 15th and a perceived lack of communication on Edwards' behalf, a cadre of Republican legislators has been looking at a little-used law to overturn the public health emergency declaration and proclamations that have wreaked havoc on the state's economy as businesses have closed and more than 350,000 workers have filed for unemployment. Members are weighing the different options that they have, and this is one of them. House Majority Leader Blake Miguez, a Republican from Erath, told The Advocate and Times-Picayune. Excuse me. State law allows a majority in either legislative chamber to overturn the governor's order and give that authority to local officials, according to a draft petition circulated by Representative Alan Seabaugh, a Shreveport Republican. Although it would be a long shot to pass, the movement exposed cracks in the relationship between the Democratic governor and a new, more conservative legislature controlled almost entirely by Republicans. I know each of you have been consulted about this petition, and you each have your own opinions, Seabaugh said in an email to Republican lawmakers, which was obtained by The Advocate. Excuse me. This may not be a perfect solution, but it is the only one on the table. Doing nothing is not an option. The effort gained attention the same day Edwards and Trump convened in the Oval Office and heaped praise on each other for their pandemic strategies. Months after Trump spent last fall's campaign season rallying for Edwards' Republican opponent, the president said it was an honor working with the governor, adding that coronavirus testing has helped the governor's response become successful. Edwards likewise thanked Trump for delivering field hospitals, Navy personnel, and other resources to Louisiana. He said testing kits recently pledged by Trump's administration will be enough to begin a phased reopening, likely in mid-May, when his stay-at-home order will expire. They've committed to resourcing Louisiana's request for 200,000 test kits per month, Edwards said, of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. That gets us to 43 out of every 1,000 residents tested each month. We believe that's sufficient for us to move forward as we're able to reopen our economy. If the Republican legislators' petition is successful, Edwards' chief lawyer, Matthew Block, warned legislative leaders that Louisiana would become the only state in the nation without an emergency declaration. It would also revoke bans on price gouging and the suspension of legal deadlines and the closure of schools, and perhaps most importantly, result in a crashing loss of federal funding. Federal disaster programs require an emergency declaration before money is released. Terminating the emergency declaration also could jeopardize the $1.8 billion heading to Louisiana through the $2 trillion coronavirus rescue package, as well as U.S. Small Business Administration loans. Louisiana expects at least 75% perhaps 90% of its costs to be covered by the federal government because of the emergency order, said Jay Dardine, Commissioner of Administration. The state has spent about $586 million and could hit $662 million, at which point the feds would pick up 90% of the tab, Dardine said, adding it makes no sense to revoke the emergency order. After Block pointed out lawmakers would need to consult a public health authority to move forward with revoking the order, Seabaugh emailed members that the petition had been redrafted to add a consultation with a public health authority and to give local officials the ability to declare disasters or emergencies. Seabaugh also said the effort will not move forward until he and others get answers about whether the move would risk federal funding. House Speaker Clay Scheck-Snyder said in a statement that people are ready to reopen the economy and that he is incredibly frustrated with Governor Edwards' unilateral decision to extend the order. Scheck-Snyder, like other Republicans, including Baton Rouge Congressman Garrett Graves, said the state should be reopening different regions at different times. While some other states have taken that approach, Edwards has rejected it. Edwards had in recent weeks expressed optimism that Louisiana could begin a phased reopening of the economy on May 1 if it met criteria for cases, hospitalizations, and other metrics laid out by the White House. He shared that goal with Republican lawmakers last week, according to Representative Valerie Hodges, a Republican from Denham Springs. He said, "We're looking good." And that's what I told my constituents. She learned that the order would be extended to May 15, about 5 minutes before Edwards made the announcement on television, Hodges said. "It's very discouraging for people in my district. They're telling me they're losing their businesses. They can't make their car notes. They may lose their homes again," Hodges said. "People are desperate. We've got to have that conversation." The governor met with state health leaders and several outside experts this week on where Louisiana stood, and the group came to a unanimous conclusion that the state wasn't ready. The stay-at-home order has flattened the number of cases in one of the nation's hardest-hit states. As of Wednesday morning, Louisiana ranked number 5 in the country in per capita cases. Among the top 10 states for per capita cases, 2 were set to begin lifting their stay-at-home orders on May 8, and 4, including Louisiana, were slated to lift them on May 15. Other dates included May 18, May 25th, May 30th, and 1, Connecticut, likely in June, according to an advocate review of executive orders and news reports. As of Wednesday, Louisiana's death toll had climbed above 1,800, and 27,660 had been confirmed to have the virus here, though officials believe the actual number is far greater. The state has experienced one of the most ravaging death tolls of any U.S. state, something officials are investigating. Dr. Catherine O'Neill, an infectious disease specialist at Our Lady of Lake Regional Medical Center in Baton Rouge, was among the experts consulted by Edwards on Sunday. She said the experts all agreed the state needed 14-day decreases of cases, hospitalizations, and people with COVID-19-like symptoms, along with adequate testing and contact tracing to reopen. The experts felt strongly at least three regions around Baton Rouge, Acadiana, and Northeast Louisiana were not prepared to reopen and that the governor should extend the order. Please excuse me, I'm having some trouble clearing my throat this morning. All right, our next story is by Feynman A. Roberts III on nursing home deaths, which are still rising. The coronavirus's deadly toll on Louisiana nursing homes and adult residential facilities, which has already claimed 26 victims at a veterans home in Reserve, 9 more at a New Roads facility, and at least 18 at Lambeth House in New Orleans, grew Wednesday to 637. Of these deaths, the state's nursing homes have been hit the hardest. The respiratory disease has claimed the lives of 590 residents in 156 nursing homes. The state also said there have been at least 2,780 cases of the disease in the nursing homes. The new numbers were reported the same day President Donald Trump touted his pledge to help the state conduct 200,000 coronavirus tests in May, and a day after Governor John Bel Edwards said expanded testing could target nursing homes and prisons, places where the virus has run rampant. Each Monday and Wednesday, the state reports the number of positive cases and deaths in nursing homes and adult residential facilities, which include drug treatment and behavioral health facilities. Combined, there were 637 total such deaths reported Wednesday, a nearly 9% increase over Monday's update. The 590 deaths in nursing homes, meanwhile, represent nearly 33% of the total coronavirus deaths in Louisiana, which stood at 1,802 on Wednesday. Taking note of disproportionate percentage of nursing home deaths, Edwards on Tuesday said once the state can secure new tests, it wants to expand testing of asymptomatic residents. Previously, only symptomatic residents were recommended for testing. State leaders have refused to name the individual facilities where positive cases have been detected, citing the volume of cases and the emergency nature of the pandemic. The Times-Picayune New Orleans Advocate has submitted 3 public records requests over the previous month, requesting the names of the homes. The state has said it may take more than a month to fulfill the request. A Louisiana Department of Health spokeswoman did not reply to questions Wednesday about how the state would assist homes in testing residents and whether the testing could include staff and on-site contractors. Michelle Bork, a New Orleans attorney whose mother lives in Chateau de Notre Dame nursing home in New Orleans, and whose father lives in an assisted living facility in Terrebonne Parish, said she wants to hear more from the state on how it plans to test residents in senior facilities. What's the plan? How are they going to implement, and when, she asked. That's critical to protect residents and staff at these facilities. Widespread testing at the facilities is a key part of the federal guidelines for opening up the country, she noted. It's been clear it was needed to be done all along, she said. Let's have some action to back up the words. We need specifics. The situation in some of Louisiana's homes is grim. At the Southeast Louisiana Veterans Home and Reserve, 26 residents have died, according to a spokeswoman for the Louisiana Department of Veterans Affairs, which operates that home and 4 others around the state. Earlier this month, when it became clear there was a major outbreak at the home, officials tested every resident. Currently, 51 of the home's 91 residents are positive for the coronavirus. In New Roads, state officials are investigating Point Coupé Healthcare, where the 9 deaths in the nursing home represent more than half the total deaths in Point Coupé Parish. Local officials said some family members had said they were told by officials at the home that there were no cases. The company that runs the nursing home replied by saying that it had communicated with residents, families, and staff regularly, as well as state and federal regulators. The state relies on the facilities to self-report their cases, but that can be a fraught process. A note in Wednesday's update said that before Monday's report, one facility accidentally entered its total number of residents in the positive cases field. That error has been corrected, the state's update said. State could cut off benefits for those refusing to work, by Tyler Bridges. Later, laid-off employees and their employers are both facing a potential catch-22 because of 2 separate provisions in the $2.2 trillion coronavirus rescue package passed by Congress to keep the economy alive. The problem is that many small companies are now receiving federal dollars to rehire their laid-off employees under one provision of the CARES Act. Yet low-wage workers may find that, thanks to a different provision, they are bringing in more money while jobless than they would by returning to work. If Louisiana employers report that the laid-off employees decline to return to work, the workers could become ineligible for the generous unemployment benefits from the Louisiana Workforce Commission, now available through July. An agency spokesman said the commission will not decide whether to cut off benefits for these workers until after Governor John Bel Edwards lifts his stay-at-home order after May 15. It's a very uncomfortable topic, but it's part of the crucible of getting people back to work, said Adam Knapp, president and CEO of the Baton Rouge Area Chamber, who said he is hearing questions from businesses multiple times every day on what they should do if their laid-off employees don't want to return. The perverse situation has been created by the CARES Act that Congress approved hastily on March 27 because of the clamor to pass legislation to keep the national economy afloat. The Paycheck Protection Program under the CARES Act provided $350 billion in loans to companies with fewer than 500 employees. If companies maintain their pre-coronavirus payrolls over 8 weeks, the Federal Small Business Administration will forgive the loan. Congress provided another $310 billion last week after the first batch of money was exhausted. Small businesses are beginning to receive their federal loans, so companies that laid off their employees are beginning to try to rehire them. But employers are running headlong into another provision of the CARES Act, which began offering $600 weekly payments to unemployed workers through July. That's nearly 3 times as much as the $247 per week that the Louisiana Workforce Commission pays laid-off workers. In all, unemployed workers in Louisiana can now earn up to $847 per week, or roughly $20 an hour. That's more than what many low-wage workers were earning, particularly in the hospitality industry. The catch-22 for laid-off employees is whether to return to work for less money than they are receiving while unemployed, but risk being cut off entirely if they choose to remain jobless. The catch-22 for employers is whether to identify those laid-off workers to the Louisiana Workforce Commission and potentially cost them their generous benefits at a time when many jobless workers need help to pay bills. In a virtual town hall meeting Wednesday with the Advocate and the Times-Picayune editor Peter Kovacs, and in a follow-up interview, U.S. Representative Garrett Graves, a Republican from Baton Rouge, said dozens of employers have expressed concern to him about the conflict between the Paycheck Protection Program and the generous unemployment benefits. Under the Paycheck Protection Program, companies would have to pay back a portion of the loan if they don't maintain their pre-coronavirus staffing level, with the amount depending on exactly how many employees they rehire. If you're offering a job and they're not coming back, that's compromising your entire loan forgiveness, Graves said in an interview. This is a big issue. U.S. Representative Mike Johnson, a Republican from Baton, said he is hearing similar concerns from small business owners in his Northwest Louisiana district. It's a very serious problem, Johnson said in an interview. The employers are in a real predicament if they can't get all their employees back. Robert Woolley, an assistant secretary for the Louisiana Workforce Commission, said employers are supposed to file a form with his agency identifying jobless employees who decline to return to work. In normal times, the Workforce Commission is required to cut off their weekly benefits, Woolley said, while noting that several exceptions allow laid-off workers to continue to receive aid. The Workforce Commission will not cut off any benefits until after Edwards lifts the stay-at-home order in place through May 15, because so many companies have yet to return to business, Woolley said. He said the commission is drafting rules on how to handle this issue. Woolley noted that under one exception, jobless workers who don't return to work could remain eligible for benefits if they have to take care of children who are at home from school. Whether jobless workers would lose their benefits is not cut and dried, Woolley said. Louis Rain, president of the Louisiana AFL-CIO, said laid-off employees shouldn't be required to return unless their employer can provide a safe work environment. We haven't stopped the spread of the disease, he said. Okay, we are going to do a PSA. AOC teams up with United Way of Acadiana for Learn United. The United Way of Acadiana has teamed up with AOC and other local groups for Learn United, bridging the digital gap to provide educational resources for households that don't have internet but do have a television. We're looking for teachers and others who could offer something of educational value to send in content to air that will enrich the lives of children staying home all day. To submit content for Learn United, visit www.unitedwayofacadiana.org/learn-united. That's unitedwayofacadiana.org/learn-united. Okay, let's see if we can get back here. Okay, so we have 4 deaths that are reported in the Acadiana region. This is a story by Claire Taylor. Acadiana lost 4 additional residents to coronavirus, with 44 new deaths reported Wednesday in Louisiana, bringing the state's death toll to more than 1,800. Hard-hit St. Landry Parish had an additional 2 deaths reported Wednesday, bringing its death toll to 39. Dr. Tina Stefanski, Regional Medical Director for the State Office of Public Health in Acadiana, said Tuesday most of the St. Landry Parish deaths were nursing home residents. She has declined to release the numbers of the nursing home or homes involved. Stefanski told the Acadiana Advocate at least 1 nursing home in each of the 7 Acadiana parishes in Region 4 have residents who tested positive for COVID-19. In some parishes, more than 1 nursing home has cases of COVID-19, she said. An additional death each was reported Wednesday in Iberia and St. Martin parishes, bringing their death tolls to 19 and 16 respectively. The Louisiana Department of Health on Tuesday reported 3 new deaths in Lafayette Parish for a total of 21. On Wednesday, the department reduced the parish death toll by 1 to 20. Usually that means the person died in Lafayette Parish but resided elsewhere. Statewide, the death toll from COVID-19 was 1,802 Wednesday, up by 44. In the health department's Acadiana region, the death toll was 104. The virus continues to spread in Louisiana, with 374 new cases reported Wednesday statewide, bringing the total to 27,660. In the 7-parish Acadiana region, 13 new cases were reported, bringing the total to 1,313. Meanwhile, for the first time since COVID-19 surfaced in Lafayette Parish on March 18, Mayor President Josh Guillory did not conduct a news conference Wednesday. Jamie Angel, Chief Communications Officer, said there's no urgent news to report, so the daily news conferences will be scaled back. Angel said he expects Guillory to hold a news conference Thursday. Guillory, on April 18, allowed most businesses in Lafayette Parish, not specifically closed by the governor's order, to reopen under a Safe Shop program, which requires safety measures to prevent spreading the virus. He allowed public golf courses to reopen Saturday with safety perimeters in place. The mayor-president is taking additional steps toward returning to normal, announcing this week that Lafayette Consolidated Government employees, some of who have been working from home and some of who are on paid leave, will return to work Monday. LCG buildings such as recreation centers and City Hall will remain closed to the public for the time being. I'm so sorry. Also, as of noon Monday, 5 LCG public libraries will be back in service using drive-through windows only. The main library in downtown Lafayette, along with the East, West, North, and South regional libraries, will be open for the first time in weeks since they were closed for safety purposes as COVID-19 surfaced in the parish. COVID-19 coronavirus, the latest. Acadian CEO supports order extension. This is by Adam Daigle. The decision from Governor John Bel Edwards to extend the stay-at-home order to May 15 was the right move to contain COVID-19 in Louisiana. Acadian Ambulance Chairman and CEO Richard Zuschlag said, In a statement released Tuesday afternoon, Juschlag commended the governor's decision and said it was based on sound science and with the best information available. While the decision keeps most of the state's economy at a standstill, the state did not meet the guidelines issued by the White House to end the order. Juschlag donated at least $35,000 to a pro-Edwards Political Action Committee, Gumbo PAC, during the governor's reelection bid last year. Like many of you, I was disheartened by the need to extend the stay-at-home order in Louisiana, Juschlag said. However, I fully support the governor's decision and commend him for his leadership during this crisis. We are all anxious to reopen our state's economy and resume our everyday activities, but we must do it smartly and carefully. No one likes the restrictions we are facing, but they are absolutely necessary to stop the spread of this deadly virus and to save lives. For days, Edwards' administration has prepared for what he hoped could be the phased reopening of the economy on May 1st, the day after his stay-at-home order was set to expire. But Sunday, at the governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness, he consulted state health leaders and several outside public health experts on the trajectory of cases and hospitalizations in the state. Acadian's personnel, Juschlag noted, have seen the effects of the coronavirus on families in recent weeks. He encouraged Louisiana residents to stay home, practice social distancing, and wear a mask while in public. Our medics continue to work tirelessly, diligently, and compassionately in caring for our fellow Louisianans, he said. Our medics don't have the luxury of staying at home to shield themselves from possible exposure, but many of you do. You must take this risk seriously. Acadiana businessman Frank Jerome II dies at 68. A private graveside service will be at noon Friday at Calvary Cemetery for Frank Charles Jerome II, an Acadiana businessman steeped in community affairs and devoted to the work of the Catholic Church. Monsignor Keith J. Derone will officiate. Jerome, who died unexpectedly at home Tuesday at age 68, was owner of Party Central and Event Solutions. He was a lifelong resident of Lafayette, a graduate of Cathedral Carmel High School, and attended the University of Southwestern Louisiana, now the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. His business interests included Lafayette Inspectors, G&B Inspection, and USI companies. He was president and CEO of Party Central, Event Solutions, Deep South Containers, and Acadiana Landfill, according to an obituary released by Martin and Castile Funeral Home, which is in charge of arrangements for the family. At 10, Jerome served as a page to King Gabriel the 23rd during Mardi Gras and held an enduring affection for Mardi Gras in Lafayette. He later served as King Gabriel the 35 in 1999, which his family said was one of the most cherished moments, according to the published obituary. He helped implement Le Festival de Mardi Gras and was interested in the economic importance of Mardi Gras in Acadiana, the obituary said. Jerome was also a member of the Chamber of Commerce and Better Business Bureau, past advisor for Lafayette Regional Trade School, sponsor of young basketball leagues, and past participant in the American Cancer Society, March of Dimes, Houston Boys Club, and Food Net. Jerome was a parishioner of the Cathedral of St. John the Evangelist Parish and was a lay minister of communion at St. Mary, Mother of the Church. His obituary said he was deeply involved with and committed to supporting the Carmelite monastery on Carmel Drive in Lafayette. In an issued statement, the monastery said, "He was a wonderful friend of the monastery for so many years. Frank was always available to help us in any way that he could whenever we had to meet. We were greatly indebted to him for all he has done for us all these years. We will deeply miss him and are praying for him and his family at this time." Jerome was also a benefactor for many of the seminarians of the Catholic Diocese of Lafayette, the family said. In lieu of flowers, memorial contributions can be made in Jerami's name to the Carmelite Monastery, 1250 Carmel Avenue in Lafayette. New Iberia Synagogue catches fire. My goodness, this morning I'm having some trouble. My apologies again. Let me try this one more time. The Congregation Gates of Prayer Synagogue sustained water and smoke damage, but was spared overall destruction after suspected lightning strike started a fire in the building's attic Wednesday morning, KATC TV reported. The fire was under control around 10 a.m. Employees at a neighboring business told KATC TV a large lightning strike was heard about 8 a.m. before the fire broke out. Smoke was seen billowing from the historic worship house on North Week Street, but firefighters said most of the damage was contained to the attic above the altar at the synagogue's rear. Firefighters recovered the synagogue's scrolls from the building before they were damaged by smoke and water and stashed them in their truck for safekeeping while bringing the fire under control, KATC TV reported. Okay. So, canceled blood drives, coronavirus fears severely impact blood supply. The coronavirus responses have severely impacted the U.S. blood supply as Vitalant and other blood centers across the country are struggling to maintain stable inventories. With school closures and workers at home, 25% of Vitalant's blood collections anticipated in March have disappeared almost overnight, and that number continues to grow. Through the end of June, Vitalant, the nation's second largest blood collector, has had over 1,400 blood drives canceled, resulting in nearly 41,000 uncollected blood donations. Vitalant strongly recommends that healthy donors schedule an appointment for a donation over the coming days and weeks, instead of donating without an appointment right now to help us better serve donors. So please call 877-25-4825. That's 877-258-4825. Or visit vitalant.org, VITALANT.org. Vitalant has nearly 125 donation centers across the country. Donors can also give blood at mobile blood drives, which must continue. Well, I don't know if those are open or not. We'll see. Blood donors and mobile blood drives will be needed in the coming weeks and months to ensure a stable blood supply for hospitals. The Lafayette Vitalant Blood Donation Center is located at 1503 Bertrand Drive. Louisiana Senator, no early release for fraudsters. This is a story by Joe Guyan Jr. Convicted fraudster R. Allen Stanford, who built $7 billion plus from 25,000 investors worldwide, including roughly 1,000 in South Louisiana, should not be released early from prison due to the coronavirus, U.S. Senator John Kennedy argues in a letter to the nation's attorney general. Stanford, who is 70 years old, a former Texas billionaire, is serving a 110-year prison term for the massive Ponzi scheme he masterminded. He was found guilty of fraud in 2012. Kennedy, a Republican from Madisonville, says U.S. Attorney General William Barr directed the Federal Bureau of Prisons in late March to release certain nonviolent offenders who are at higher risk of contracting and dying because of the coronavirus. However, when making decisions about who to release early, it is imperative the Federal Bureau of Prisons strongly considers the financial, emotional, and physical devastation that some inmates have caused by their crimes, Kennedy wrote last week to Barr. Kennedy reminded Barr that Stanford orchestrated an investment fraud scheme second only to that of Bernie Madoff's in size. Madoff, a former investment advisor and financier, operated the largest Ponzi scheme in U.S. history. He pleaded guilty in 2009. Prosecutors estimated the fraud in his case to be worth nearly $65 billion. Stanford lived lavishly by preying on the vulnerabilities of Americans who trusted him with every cent of their savings, many experiencing financial ruin when the scam fell apart, Kennedy said. To this day, more than a dozen lawsuits are pending against Stanford by investors seeking pennies on the dollar from their initial investments. Madoff, who is 81, has requested early release from his 150-year sentence due to the coronavirus, Kennedy noted. I am concerned that it is only a matter of time before Stanford does as well, he wrote. Releasing either of these individuals or anyone similarly situated would be an affront to those affected by their evil schemes and a complete failure in the administration of justice. Kennedy believes Stanford and Madoff should be the last ones to benefit from the change in circumstances COVID-19 has caused. Investors were told by Stanford's financial advisors that their money was safely held in certificates of deposit at Stanford International Bank in the Caribbean island of Antigua. The money for the CDs, however, funded his lavish habits. Many of the dozens of local victims of Stanford's Ponzi scheme are retirees from Exxon and other plants along the Mississippi River. The Louisiana Supreme Court upholds firings of 2 Baton Rouge police officers. This is another story by Joe Guyon Jr. The state Supreme Court has upheld the firings of 2 Baton Rouge police officers who were accused but found not guilty of acting as lookouts while a third officer allegedly sexually assaulted a woman at a Breck Park in 2014. An appeal by former officers Emerson Jackson, who is 37, and Travis Wheeler, who is 32, was denied Monday by the High Court, which did not offer written reasons. The ex-officer's attorney said Wednesday that he will not file any further appeals on their behalf. I believe it's over. It's over on my end, lawyer Kyle Kershaw said. I think it's the end of the road. Prosecutors allege Jackson and Wheeler stood by as Isaac Bolden, who is 45, forced a young woman to perform a sex act on him at Old Hammond Park on February 4th, 2014. All 3 officers were acquitted by an East Baton Rouge Parish jury on abuse of office charges in 2017, but they had already lost their jobs, and the Municipal Fire and Police Civil Service Board upheld their terminations. After State District Judge Wilson Fields ruled last fall that members of the board went outside their scope of authority, the state First Circuit Court of Appeal reversed Fields' ruling and reinstated the board's decision in January. The appellate court said the board's decision was based upon substantial and competent evidence. Even though the officers were acquitted in court, there was a preponderance of the evidence that the officers acted inappropriately, First Circuit Chief Judge Vanessa Whipple wrote for the court. A preponderance of the evidence is a lower standard of proof than beyond a reasonable doubt, which is required for a criminal conviction. A preponderance of the evidence is enough to justify a firing, the appeals court said. East Baton Rouge Parish District Attorney Hilar Moore III has said jurors indicated after the trial that they believe something occurred in the park, but juries said they wanted more evidence, particularly some form of physical evidence such as DNA, to convict. The men did not testify at their trial. The officer's accuser, who was 20 at the time, testified she was in the park after hours with a male companion when the officers arrived. She said the officer allowed the man to leave, leaving her alone with them. Bolden, she testified, told her he wanted a 10-minute girlfriend. The appeals court said the record supports a finding that Jackson and Wheeler knowingly and intentionally used the authority of their office to coerce the victim to provide sex to the third officer. The Civil Service Board had explained in court filings that it believed Jackson and Wheeler were guilty of malfeasance in office and failing to protect the woman involved, and called the men accessories. Jackson and Wheeler were fired 2 days after a grand jury indicted them, and Bolden in late 2014. Bolden resigned months before the grand jury returned the indictment, the city parish has said, but Bolden claimed that he was involuntarily terminated about 3 weeks after the sexual assault accusation, after he refused to resign. Wheeler now works for the Baker Police Department, according to Kershaw. The employment status of Jackson and Bolden is unknown. Philanthropy groups pool efforts. This is by Anthony McCauley. Dozens of Louisiana's philanthropic organizations have begun pooling their efforts to try to steer money to where it is needed most during the coronavirus pandemic. Michael Tipton, president of the Blue Cross Blue Shield Louisiana Foundation, said the coordination began organically about 6 weeks ago and has grown to include as many as 90 organizations, which so far have accounted for more than $50 million in community relief efforts. Most states have a philanthropic coordinating organization, but Louisiana does not, which left a need for some kind of forum to help organizations avoid overlap and to share best practices, said Tipton. He said there are now about 40 organizations running the gamut from well-known groups such as United Way to corporate giving units of Exile Mobile or Hancock Whitney, to family foundations like those for the Wilson and Pennington families that have been holding weekly conference calls since mid-March to help direct funds and highlight opportunities in different parts of the state. There's been an outpouring of community relief efforts as the crisis has hit individuals and families in myriad ways, from leaving people jobless and short of food to families without the technology needed for their children to participate in remote schooling. On Wednesday, Hancock Whitney, which has been participating in the coordination effort, said it would be making another $2.5 million available for community relief efforts. The bank said $1 million will be directed at food pantries. $800,000 will be used for housing relief, including money for legal services to organizations like Southeast Louisiana Legal Services to fight illegal evictions. And another $600,000 will be for personal protective equipment for residents in low-income areas. John Hairston, Hancock Whitney's president and CEO, said it was important that the companies and organizations that are able to give find ways to get those funds to the right groups. We didn't want this to be just us standing in a parking lot handing out masks or anything like that, he said. We're going to depend on the organizations that are already doing this and know how to make a dollar go a long way. Denise Durrell, president and CEO of the United Way of Southwest Louisiana, pointed to another way the coordinating effort has paid off for nonprofit, which is itself a coalition of charitable organizations. On a call 2 weeks ago, she talked about an initiative with T-Mobile whereby low-income families are able to get home internet and an 8-inch tablet for $10 a month. Durrell said she was able to connect a half dozen other organizations helping families in other parts of the state with Dan McGovern, who is running the program out of New Orleans for Louisiana, Mississippi, and Houston. Tipton said the effort during the current crisis should be a catalyst for a more formal coordinating forum in future. I had been talking with a few colleagues about the need for this before all this. We had thought we should try to get people together once or twice a year, he said, but I think now our intention would be that we'll continue these weekly calls for as long as it is needed and then evolve this into formal, consistent gatherings for the future. We actually have a sports note today. So before we get to that, let me see if we do have the horoscope. So I'm going to skip into the horoscope first and come back to the sports. So our zodiac and horoscope for today, for April 30th, 2020, is as such. Okay, Taurus, gather information and move in a positive direction. Refuse to let an emotional problem turn into an argument that will stifle your ability to get things done. Search for common ground. Gemini, added responsibilities will lead to new opportunities if you are patient and productive. How you handle people and situations will help you gain respect and support. Romance is favored. Cancer, be part of the solution, not part of the problem. Look for ways to bring in more cash and clear up unfinished business. A positive attitude will lead to good results. Leo, keep a low profile. Do your own thing and don't get dragged into someone else's drama. Gravitate toward people and events that bring out the best in you. Romance is favored. You might want to check in with Gemini. Virgo, listen, learn, and go about your business. Travel and learning will lead to personal growth, new ideas, and a plan that will help you advance. Don't leave anything to chance. Libra, personal improvement, fitness, or whatever eases your stress is encouraged. If you overact, you could be left doing all the work yourself. Strive for balance and equality. Scorpio, assess your situation at home and your relationships with friends, relatives, and peers and make adjustments. An emotional incident will leave you in a vulnerable position. Sagittarius, promote what you want to do. Your track record will encourage others to get involved in your plans. Handpick your team. Love is encouraged. Capricorn, finish what you start and move on to a new and exciting project. Home improvements will lead to a change of attitude and newly available options. Aquarius, let go of the past. Take a giant leap forward and make plans that will improve your personal life. Added discipline will help you say no to anyone who pressures you. Pisces, do your own thing. Bring about change and refuse to let anyone stand in your way. Spending less will be necessary if you want to ease stress. Aries, physical activity will be rejuvenating. Use your skills and knowledge to improve your surroundings. Take pride in your appearance and share your time and intentions with a loved one. That is your horoscope for today, April 30th, 2020. And don't forget that the horoscope is an entertainment feature and is not based on scientific fact. Okay, I'm going to jump off here for a second, see if we can get some more, excuse me, a couple of more public service announcements, then we'll do our last sports story. So, keeping calm through COVID hotline. If you're feeling overwhelmed with stress, fear, and anxiety about the uncertainty surrounding this public health emergency, there is a special Keeping Calm Through COVID hotline you can call. This connects you to trained, compassionate counselors who can offer support and who can direct you to mental health and substance abuse counseling services. Trained counselors are available 24/7, and all calls are confidential. So if you're feeling a little stress or fear or anxiety, or just want somebody to kind of talk things over with, pick up the phone and call 866-310-7977. Let me repeat that number to you, 866-310-7977. Medicaid resources. If you have lost your job, if you have reduced hours, you may be eligible for Medicaid. You can apply online at mymedicaid.la.gov. You can also apply by calling 888-342-6207, 888-342-6207. Local Medicaid offices are currently closed to the public, but if you need additional assistance, call 888-342-6207. Okay, let's get back to that. Our sports. LSU's Eunice Willis said baseball team keeping it simple. Coach discusses eligibility issues amid the pandemic. This is by Kevin Foote. Things could get really complicated for a college baseball coach at any level these days. Much like at the Division I level, NAIA and NJCAA leadership granted the option for an extra year of eligibility for all players. Like all the other coaches around the country, LSU Eunice baseball coach Jeff Willis was already recruiting next year's signing class when suddenly the coronavirus ended college baseball seasons everywhere in mid-March. Soon thereafter, 10 of the Bengals sophomores were given a mulligan for their final season in Eunice by the NJCAA. At this point, 8 of those 10 have confirmed they plan on returning to Willis next spring. Instead of allowing the unprecedented scenario to muddle the waters, however, Willis said his school will keep things simple. We're going to have the same numbers that we have every year, Willis said. We're not going to increase our numbers by 10 or 15 kids. That's not fair to do that to all the players in your program. We're going to stay with the same number of players we bring in every single year. LSU Eunice is going to do that by keeping the seniors that would like to return, but not adding any newcomers that put the program above the limit of 24 unless the draft creates an opening later this summer. Many programs across all levels of college baseball are going to increase their scholarship limits. For example, UL had 5 seniors, and therefore its roster will include 5 more scholarship players than normal in 2021. Some schools are doing that at the junior college level, but we're not going to do that, Willis said. First of all, we don't have the money to increase our scholarships to do that. Second of all, we're not going to do that because I don't think it's fair to stockpile a bunch of players. His method was putting an abrupt end to recruiting. We were able to push stop at that point in time and make sure we didn't over-recruit ourselves. We worked far enough ahead to where we could put a stop to some of that at that point in time. Willis made it clear, though, that the college baseball world won't be quite as status quo as things are for his Bengals. If in fact the Major League Baseball draft only holds 5 or 10 rounds, as some are predicting, the amount of overall talent on Division I baseball teams next spring will likely be at an all-time high. I think the talent level in college baseball is going to go up tremendously, he said. One reason is the shorter draft will likely spend more top high school prospects into college ball. You have Power 5 conference schools who signed a kid as a top 100 player in the country, and they didn't think that player was even going to step foot on campus, but they signed them anyway, Willis explained. That kid may now all of a sudden come to school, and those Power 5 programs that sign those players aren't going to have room for them, or they're going to have to make room for them. That's the next wave that's going to happen. Secondly, junior will now essentially have 2 league seasons to play with. The next piece to this is the draft eligible juniors. The draft eligible juniors this year, Willis said. Now they'll have this year as a bargaining year and next year as a bargaining year as well, so they can stay up at that college. Of course, no matter what transpired, Willis always seems to flourish, evidenced by 6 national championships. This year's club was off to a 21-0 start. Yeah, it was very special, Willis said. For one, the chemistry of the team was far, and any team in our college, I guess, far more better than any team in our program's history at that time of the year. Now we don't know if it was going to continue to go up, but for that time of the year, our chemistry was really, really good. I've always said that our most talented teams didn't win the national championship. The teams that had the best chemistry and worked together and fought together, those are the teams that pulled it together in the end. At the time, the Bengals were ranked in the top 5 nationally in 12 hitting categories, including 124 stolen bases, and Jack Merrifield leading the nation with 32 RBIs. LSUE was averaging 13 runs a game and already has 12 mercy rule victories. Meanwhile, the pitching staff had 4 shutouts and was limiting opposing hitters to a 2.205 batting average. We were running out 3 starting pitchers that were up to 95, and our closer had been up to 95. And then we had 2 setup guys that were 93 as well. So we had pitchability, Willis said. It was a team that was poised to do something special. Stop the spread, call instead. For the latest COVID-19 updates and information, visit www.311lafayette.services. Call centers with volunteers and medical professionals are active 24/7 to answer your questions about COVID-19 and determine if you need to get screened. You may also call 311 and press option 2 if you are a business owner, employee, or are looking for a job to get information about applying for small business recovery loans. apply for unemployment benefits and related programs. Again, that's www.311lafayette.services. Downtown Alive. I'm not sure. I want to make sure. Yes, this would be good. Downtown Alive house sessions are a series of hashtag stay at home Friday night concerts for Acadiana, presented by Evangeline Maid and organized by Downtown Lafayette. The house sessions are a way for us all to help Acadiana musicians who are out of work due to the ongoing coronavirus situation. The series will support local musicians and make staying home fun. This Friday, May 1st, tomorrow night at 7 p.m., join us for Steve Riley and the Riley Family Band, airing live on the Downtown Alive Facebook page and on AOC 1, Cox 15 / LUS 3, and streaming at aocinc.org/watch. So that's all the news we have for you today. I'm going to turn you back to my friend Matt, who's going to wrap things up. I apologize for all the clearing of my throat, but my allergies have been kind of off the chart lately. And today was, they showed up. They wanted a little attention themselves today. So.
Well, I'm sorry you had to
Okay.
suffer through that, Danon, but thanks again for reading the news this morning.
Not a problem. I'm sorry I had to keep going throughout the whole thing. It drives me crazy.
That's all right. We all are understanding these days. We've all got allergies. We're all doing our part. So
thank you, Matt.
Thank you again so much for reading the news, and that'll wrap it up for today. So thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.